Hello everyone, this is Sayali, and today I will be presenting Chapter 3, Essential Process Modeling from the book Fundamentals of Business Process Management. This chapter focuses on how organizations represent and understand business processes using visual models, particularly using a standard notation called BPMN, the Business Process Model and Notation. Process modeling plays a crucial role in helping organizations analyze workflows, improve efficiency, and implement enterprise systems. In this presentation, I will explain what process modeling is, why it is important, key BPMN elements, different types of decision gateways, and concepts like business objects, resources, and process decomposition. What is process modeling? Process modeling is the visual representation of a business process, showing how different activities, events, and decisions occur within an organization. Instead of describing a workflow using long text documents, process modeling uses diagrams and symbols to make the workflow easier to understand. For example, the diagram shown in this slide represents a simple order to cash process where a company receives an order, ships the product, sends an invoice, receives payment, and finally archives the order. This type of visual representation helps managers and employees clearly see how work flows from start to finish. Process modeling is widely used for analysis, process improvement, and automation in enterprise systems. Importance of process modeling. Process modeling is important for several reasons. First, it improves understanding of business processes by making workflows visible and easy to interpret. Second, it helps organizations identify inefficiencies and bottlenecks, such as unnecessary steps or delays in a process. Third, process models support process improvement, allowing companies to redesign workflows to become faster and more efficient. Finally, process modeling is essential for automation and system implementation, especially when organizations adopt enterprise systems like ERP. Another key benefit is that process models provide clear communication among stakeholders, including managers, developers, and business users. Introduction to BPMN. To represent business processes visually, organizations commonly use BPMN, Business Process Model and Notation. BPMN is a standard modeling language that provides a set of graphical symbols to represent different components of a business process. One of the biggest advantages of BPMN is that it is easy to understand for both business professionals and technical users. Using BPMN, we can clearly represent events that start or end a process, activities that perform work, gateways that represent decisions, and flows that connects the steps. Because of this standardization, BPMN has become one of the most widely used process modeling techniques in business process management. The BPMN diagrams consist of several key elements. First, we have events, which represent things that happen during a process. These include start events, message events, timer events, and end events. Second, we have activities, which represents tasks or work being performed. Activities may also include sub-processes, which are a group of tasks. Third, we have gateway, which represents decision points where the workflow may branch into different paths. Finally, connecting elements. such as sequence flow and message flows, show how different activities are connected. These elements work together to visually represent how a business process operates. Branching and merging. In many business processes, the workflow does not always follow a single straight path. Instead, processes often involve decisions or parallel tasks which require the workflow to branch into multiple paths. This is known as branching and merging. Branching determines which path the process should follow depending on certain conditions. In BPMN, there are three main types of branching gateways. First is the exclusive decision XOR, second is the parallel execution, and third is the inclusive decision OR. Each of these gateways controls how the process continues. Exclusive decision XOR. The first type of the gateway is the exclusive decision, also known as the XOR gateway. In this case, only one path can be selected based on a condition. For example, in the diagram shown here, the process checks whether an invoice has mismatches. If there are no mismatches, the invoice is posted. If mismatches exist but can be corrected, the invoice is resent to the customer. If the mismatches cannot be corrected, the invoice is blocked. So, the key idea of an XOR gateway is that only one outcome is chosen at a time. Parallel, parallel execution, and the second gateway type is parallel execution, represented by the AND gateway. In this case, multiple tasks are executed simultaneously instead of choosing just one path. For example, the diagram here shows an airport security process. After receiving a boarding pass, two tasks happen in parallel. The passenger goes through security screening and their luggage is also screened. Both the tasks occur at the same time before the passenger proceeds to the departure level. And in the other example, we can see that this is a preparation of a product. First, we prepare the invoice, and then we pack the product, and then we arrange the shipment. So, parallel execution helps improve efficiency and reduce delays in a business process. Third is inclusive decision. It is the third type of gateway, and it is also called as the OR gateway. Unlike XOR, where only one path is chosen, the OR gateway allows one or more paths to be selected simultaneously. For example, in the order processing example shown here, a system checks the order line items. If the order contains products from multiple warehouses, the system may forward sub orders to both warehouses at the same time. This means multiple paths can occur depending on the conditions. The OR gateway is useful when several actions may need to happen depending on the business rules. Business objects. Business objects represent the data or information used within a business process. These objects help track information as the process progresses from one step to another. Example of business objects include purchase orders, invoices, customer records, documents. For example, in an order to cash process, The purchase order, invoice, and payment information are all business objects that move through the workflow. These objects ensure that information flows together with the activities of the process. Resources. Resources represent the people or systems that perform tasks within a process. Resources can include employees, departments, external organizations, or information systems. For example, in a typical order processing workflow, a sales representative, inventory system, and shipping department may all act as resources. Clearly defining resources helps organizations understand who is responsible for each activity in the process. Process decomposition. Many business processes are very large and complex. To make them easier to understand, they can be broken down into smaller components using a concept called process decomposition. Process decomposition divides a large process into smaller sub processes. For example, order processing may be divided into payment processing, shipment handling, order confirmation. This approach improves readability and allows organizations to manage complex workflows more effectively. This diagram shown here illustrates an example of process decomposition in an order to cash process. The process begins when a purchase order is received. The system then checks stock availability. If the product is not in stock, the process may include acquiring raw materials and manufacturing the product. If the product is already available, it is retrieved from the warehouse. And finally, the order is confirmed, shipped, invoiced, and archived. This example shows how complex processes can be organized into smaller logical steps. Process model reuse. Another important concept in process modeling is process model reuse. Organizations often reuse existing process models instead of creating new ones from scratch. This approach has several advantages. First, it reduces the effort required to design new processes. Second, it helps maintain consistency across different departments or systems. Third, it promotes standardization of business practices within the organization. For example, the same loan approval process model might be reused across different banking services. This slide shows an example of a customer order process. The process starts when a customer places an order. The system checks whether the product is available. If the product is available, payment is processed. The product is prepared and the order is delivered. If the product is not available, the customer may choose another product or cancel the order. This example demonstrates how process modeling clearly shows different paths and decisions in a workflow. Conclusion. To conclude, process modeling is an essential concept in business process management. It helps organizations visualize workflows and understand how different activities interact. We learned that BPMN provides a standard way to model processes using events, activities, and gateways. We also discussed different decision gateways such as XOR and OR, as well as concepts like business objects, resources, and process decomposition. By using process models, organizations can improve efficiency, automate workflows, and support enterprise system implementation. Thank you.